Hello friends, Jay the Silent Cartographer here, and this is daily map number 27, I believe. This one's going to be a weird one, because I actually need to make a map for my D&D campaign. So I think I'm going to try to do a town map in Wonderdraft. Now, there's a very specific shape I need for this, which I think this will work for. First things first, we are going to go ahead and go to the land, and we're just going to make the land... Actually, you know what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this the right way. We're gonna take the land brush and we're just gonna do. So that way, if we do any water, which actually now that I'm thinking about it, we're not going to, then it won't look as wrong. It is in portrait kind of because the town has some mines at the top of it, and the mines are gonna be up on cliffs. So we're gonna do that. I want to experiment with being able to do the cliffs first, so that's what we're going to do right now. No, I thought that there were some front-facing cliffs here, but doesn't seem to actually be any front-facing cliffs. So I'm just going to go ahead and lay something like this down. Why are there no like front-on cliffs? That's very very odd that they wouldn't have that. Is this? Yeah, I guess this is kind of what that is. And then do something like that. Maybe we'll delete these. Maybe we'll delete these. We'll grab these, and then we want to scale these to like 10. That looks blurry as hell. All right, so let's go to like 5. 5 seems to work okay. Yeah, so we'll go 5 on this one too. We'll set them up like this. Is there not a way to rotate these? We can go like that and then go like that maybe. We have kind of like the up the cliff area here. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go to our symbols tool. We're gonna search for mine, and we're gonna go put around some mines here inside of these. Inside. And we'll fix it in a minute. We'll put some mines down like here, we'll put a mine over here, we'll put a mine up here, and we'll put one more mine down like here. Go to this, click this, go up 1, okay. Go here, go up 1. Okay, so, and you know, actually, now that I'm like looking at this, I don't know if this is actually going to work the way that I want it to. I might have to completely redo this. It's just, it doesn't look exactly how I had imagined, and that's kind of a problem in the sense. I was also going to use like these houses, this housing tile set. So how small can we make these? Something like this would work. This would be. We'd be hard pressed to make that look good, now wouldn't we? So okay, maybe I'm not gonna make the town map today. Maybe I'm gonna go ahead and go new, discard, template, and we're just gonna make a regular map today. Whoops, discard, landscape. Okay, here's our map. Why does that not look like 1080p to me? Hold up. 1920 by 1080, full HD, landscape. Okay, I guess it is. I guess it is. Let's go to the content generation tool. Let's go to Archipelago. Reduce the water level down to 0.01, or as close to it as possible. Increase the detail, increase the roughness, and here we are. This will be good. Let's grab our brush tool and let's start filling in some of these islands. I think like this is an obvious place to connect that like that. Let's see, where else is this gonna make sense to come together? One thing I will say is I don't think that, oh, that's not the right tool. We want to go to our eraser tool. We don't want any of these. Don't think any of this stuff is exactly what I'm looking for either over on the side here. Nothing out here. I mean, this is going to kind of be what we're working with here, and then we're just going to go ahead and paint in some of the land there. Yeah, so Daily Map has been on a very weird schedule recently where I think I posted a daily map at like 4 in the morning one day because I woke up super early. I just woke up at 7 or so p.m. I've been completely reversed on my sleep schedule. My air conditioning broke, and I'm very bad at sleeping in hot conditions, and so I have been only able to sleep for like 3 or 4 hours at a time, and that's caused my sleep schedule to be very backwards. Um, I've also got a whole bunch of prep for my Dungeons and Dragons campaign, which starts this Sunday. I'm super excited on that. And then maybe I'll be making some running the game videos on the YouTube channel, covering things that I learn from my adventures. Because no matter how much experience dungeon mastering you have, it is always nice to reflect on the things that you've done. I have my players doing surveys every week for me as part of my campaign because I find it incredibly valuable for them to do that. And so maybe I'll do one going over player feedback and how to take that, because a lot of times players will say something, and this goes true with just about any form of media. They'll say something that they don't understand. Like if you are reading a book and you say like, I this character is boring. You might be right that the character is boring, but you probably don't understand why that character is boring. You might think you understand why that character is boring, but the actual fact of the matter is you probably don't understand why that character is boring. I mean, the same thing goes in D&D. You could say like, oh, the pacing felt so slow. Why did the pacing feel so slow? Oh, because the NPCs are boring. Okay, that's valid feedback. So then why would they be boring? So thinking about that logically, maybe that particular character doesn't really have anything to do. Maybe did they make a single roll the entire night? I know that, like, because I have a group of 7 players. I know in some of my larger groups, some players will say like, "Oh, that session was so boring," and I'll realize that the reason that they thought that the session was boring or that an NPC was dumb is because they never interacted with them because they just never had a chance to. So it's like, well, did I give this player a chance to shine, a chance to do something? And the answer is sometimes no, I didn't, and that's on me. That's one of the things that you can improve on as a DM, is making sure that all of your players have their own little thing to do in every adventure that you plan. Especially because you should know your characters, your players. You should know what they like. You should know what they don't like. You should know what they want to do with their characters. Talk to your players. Like, what's your character's goal? What do you want to get out of this campaign? And that question will open the door. And don't let your players give you work either. That's the other thing. It's like if you say, like, well, who's your player's family? Don't let them say, I don't know. I was thinking you could come up with that. Say, no, who is your player's family? It I recently rewatched the Critical Role Campaign 1 recap, and Taliesin Jaffe said something really wise, as he is wont to do, and that was that when he creates character backstory, he writes it from the perspective of his own character, and then he gives it to Matt Mercer, and Matt Mercer can then fill in the what really happened. So, I mean, in one context, it would be like, oh, my father went missing when I was a child. He disappeared, and my mother said never to speak of him again. Well, was he killed? Was he charged with treason? Like, what really happened there? And that can be like a super interesting. That can be a super interesting little plot point that you may have never thought about. And so it's fascinating to like hear Taliesin say that, like, yeah, I wrote Percy's backstory basically from the perspective of what happened to Percy, and I let Matt come up with what actually happened there. And I mean, that's a brilliant way to write character backstory, and it gives the DM a lot of freedom to go into your ideas and kind of take your perspective of things and show you a different one, and that is a very fun a very fun thing um, for a DM to do. But at the same time, you do have to be careful that you don't give your DM 500 hours of paperwork, because we have lives too, and my players are very bad about giving me busy work. Um, and it's something that I've been wrestling with them for years and years and years. I mean, years and years. We haven't been playing together for more than a couple of years, but also, I don't know like how, but there some point in this recording, I have learned how to use the lasso tool properly to rescale the islands, and this looks so much better than it did previously. Look at that. That was a great learning experience for me. I just kind of learned by doing, I guess would be the proper term for it. We're just gonna clean some of these islands up just a little bit, but yeah, no. So I mean, it's always fun starting a new campaign because you have new characters, new ideas, a whole new world for me to make is always very exciting to me. But at the same time, it's also very daunting, of course, because you have um, because you have all of the challenges of building a world. And I mean, this is one of the reasons why I say where if you're a DM, don't think you have to homebrew everything. Modules are your best friend. Like I mean, my first adventure for this campaign is going to be ripped. Well, besides the one that I'm writing is kind of like a little party tester to see how people work together. Um, the first major adventure of this campaign is going to be basically a one-for-one recreation of the Siege of Kvatch from the Elder Scrolls for Oblivion. And then I'm gonna be going into some more homebrew story stuff involving a. I very early on identified the coolest part of my campaign setting, mostly because of the reactions of people when I was talking about it with them. Which that's the other thing is if you're creating something, talk to other people about what you're creating. For the love of God, I mean this goes for creative writing or for DMing, but you'll really get a sense of what's cool and what's not based on the reactions of other people. And so I have in the center of my world a desert, and this desert is it's home to a bunch of Yuan-Ti, and the Yuan-Ti, way back in the day, way back in the day, hundreds of years ago, they were starving, they were destitute, they were about to go extinct, and so the leader of the Yuan-Ti prayed to his god Seseth, and he said, "Oh, great god Seseth, deliver us from our destruction and doom, and we will do your bidding." And he said, of course, I will save you, my children." But in return, you must reclaim the world as my desert. And they say, of course. So the gods Seseth grants them the ability to raise the lizard men, which are the main kind of quote unquote villain of the campaign in a superficial sense. And everywhere that the Yuan-Ti take over, then immediately dries up and turns to sand. It turns to desert. So there's this ever expanding desert in the middle of the world. And if the empires of the world cannot set aside their pettiness and fight these creatures, then they will all die because the world will turn to desert. And so the party adventure, the player adventure for this is going to be something's going to happen with the Yuan-Ti. The desert is going to give birth to the god Seseth, or at least they're going to discover a plot to bring Seseth into the world, and they have to stop it. And this adventure will take them to all 4 elemental planes, and then eventually to the celestial realm, and then to the 9 hells, and then back to the prime material. And the whole thing is it's going to be kind of like a doomsday scenario where, in all reality, there's a good chance that the entire world is destroyed by the time they're done. If they make certain decisions, entire nations will fall into the desert and they'll be just gone, lost to history forever. And so it'll be very interesting to see like how they go about saving the world, or if they even do save the world. And I know that kind of sets up a no-win scenario, right? Where they have to, or where they Sorry, I'm doing my favorite coastal outline. It sets up the scenario where they could lose everything, but I like stakes like that. Honestly, I do. I think it's so cool to have a campaign where you gotta think like, oh God, if we for whatever reason mess this up, this is the death of the universe. This is the death of everybody we know and love. Like, how do we stop this? And what are we supposed to do? And well, the answer is I don't know. I don't know how they're gonna stop it because the lizardmen have been planning this and plotting this. Seth has been plotting his revenge, his ascendance for hundreds of years, and now and only now the players are coming to combat him. And so they must be very courageous. They must be very prepared to sacrifice. And I mean, a lot of them are from other countries, other territories. And so I have to think, and one of the things that I'm not 100% sure on yet is which country the Herald of Sesef, this gigantic, like 2,000-foot long snake that pops out of the ground, is going to. Does it look more brown than usual? It does look more brown than usual. That's weird. This forest color is usually the one I use for everything, and I don't remember it being that brown. Oh well, we can do some green grass like this, and then that'll give me the color I want. But yeah, so they have to decide, like, do they try to fight this thing, or do they try to close the portal to the Nine Hells that opens in the middle of the world? And then there's also the other empires and what they're doing to try and combat this Yuan-Ti menace. Because like a lot of them are probably terrified, rightly so. They're scared shitless because their home's about to be destroyed. If this giant snake gets into their territory, it'll turn it to sand. It'll turn it to the desert, and they'll lose everything. And miracles are not something that happen every day in this world, so the only person who is known to use a wish spell used it already in this world, and he can't use it again. He's lost that power. And so, yeah, we'll see what happens. I kind of like the idea of like a 3-tiered lake here, something like that. Go to the freshwater setting. Watercolor. Need a teal. And make it a solid color, but that doesn't really make sense. A bit of a filter to it. So hard to make a. I'm very much not a fan of the freshwater settings in Wonderdraft. It's another thing I think they could do way better. Specifically, the freshwater outline being as thin as it is just kind of sucks because it doesn't really give any definition as to the different stuff. We are going to go to our symbols, though. We're going to go to our mountains. We haven't actually used these mountains in a very long time. It's very unlike me, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to use them today. We're going to go ahead and we're going to make a big old mountain range going right down this way. Yeah, no, so I have a lot of plans for my campaign setting. It's going to be very interesting. And then after that, I still have that book that I discovered while working on daily map number like 21, and that has been itching in the back of my head for 4 or 5 days now, and all I want to do is write it. But I have I'm currently in courses to learn animation online through a course program called Animation Mentor, which is a very interesting program if you're interested in animation. It's a for-profit school, but it works in a very different way than a lot of other for-profits that I've been involved with or that I've known people who have been involved with. Essentially, the courses, the lectures you do on your own time. So it's kind of like a learn from a YouTube video style thing. But then once a week you get to sit down with your mentor, who is a like an actual animator from an actual studio, you and your class. So my class is, I think, like 7 people, and every one of the 6 courses you get a new mentor, and the mentor will go over your work, will give you a critique on your assignment every week, and will teach you what they know about animation. And so like my animation mentor is a guy named Mario Orlando, and Mario, um he animated some of the Hulkbuster scenes in Avengers Infinity War. He works for Industrial Light and Magic. He's a really, really awesome guy, and he's taught me a lot about how to animate, how things look, how things work, and it's super cool to pick his brain about stuff. Um, my last mentor was Scott Lemmer, who worked on, I believe, How to Train Your Dragon, as well as a whole bunch of other. I think it's DreamWorks Productions, and he's incredible. He's outstanding. So yeah, I mean, if you have the money and the time, I would say it's worth it just as just an experience to go and do it. If you have any interest in 3D animation, but I mean, even if you don't have any interest in 3D animation, it's an incredibly interesting program. We're gonna go ahead and just dot some foothills down. But yeah, so I guess what I was going for with that is that my final for my second course is due on Sunday, and my first D&D session is Sunday. So even though I have this awesome story idea that's been kicking in my head for a while, that I've come up with so much cool stuff for it. I think I mentioned the different jobs of these interesting like hunters in this world, and a little bit about their job. I think I covered that in a previous daily map. But it's so interesting, and then I figured out the first real plot hook of the story. I figured out what the main conflict of the story is. I'm really excited to get down and dirty and start writing that book. But I haven't even thought of a name for my protagonist yet, because I feel like the second that I get too into it, I'm just never gonna turn away from it until I'm done with it. Because on average, when I get into a writing kick, I write around 15,000 words a day. I'll just spend 8 hours a day writing book, and I mean that's great when you have nothing to do. But when you have obligations and school and friends who are counting on you to run an awesome D&D campaign, then you suddenly can't afford that liberty, that freedom to do that. And I mean, to some people that might be like, oh, well, that sucks then. I mean, you can't do what you love, you can't do what you want, but I am doing what I love. I'm making art through animation, and although I'm not very good at it yet, I think it's a very interesting career path. I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons with my friends. I get to spend time with my awesome buddies who come up with these really like wacky and zany ideas. I mean, hey, I could even stop doing daily map and just write instead of doing daily map. But daily map has been such a nice little moment of respite from just everything, everything in the world for me, where I can sit down once a day and just create something. And I know when I sit down that by the end of that hour or 15 minutes or however long, I will have a complete map, something that I created from scratch. And sometimes that allows me to tell a story with that map. Sometimes it allows me to do something cool with that map. And then, hey, maybe someday somebody will find this channel and they'll take one of these maps and they'll tell their own great story with that map. And I think that there's nothing cooler than that. There's nothing more awesome than letting other people or giving other people the tools to tell stories. And I mean, telling stories has been my passion for years. It's what I see myself doing with my life. If I can't make a living telling stories, then I don't know what I'm gonna do. Really, I don't, because that's my passion. That is my passion. You know, I think I'm actually gonna neon this up a little bit more even. I'm gonna go to the farmland green, and I'm just gonna. That is yellow. I don't know why this is kind of like tinged differently. I don't know if my eyes broke over the last day or so, but the greens don't look as green this time. Maybe this like lemongrass type. Ugh. Look at that. Look how bright that is. Maybe if we cut the opacity down a little bit and I just give a highlight. That. Something like that. Just give it a little bit more punch. A little bit more punch. Yeah, that looks okay. Okay. Then do I want to do anything with the other islands? And I think the answer is probably not. No. Let's check symbols for inspiration, as we always do. Put a big hippogriff right there. Put a big demon fish in one of the lakes. That's terrifying. I do like the idea of there being like a big citadel or something right in the middle of that area there, but a sextant somewhere. That down there like that. Maybe put a rose on this one. What color do we put the rose though? First off, let's solid up these colors. And what type of... And that's kind of a cool, like, ghostly little compass. Not exactly what I'm looking for. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Maybe we take this, which is the interior color, and we make it the glowing blue. We then take this color and we make it a little bit darker. Take this and have our compass rose. Kind of doesn't work. Why does it not work? It's because it's too close to that. So I think we have to go into here. I think we have to delete that. We have to go back to here. We're gonna scale this up and we're gonna slap that down. We are then going to go to overlays, grid overlay, layer, water only, and we are going to pattern square. As for the size, I think something like that's good. Line width minimum, opacity very slight opacity. We're gonna take the brush, we're gonna select our light color, and we're just gonna cut the alpha down, and that'll just create this really subtle thing, except in the fresh water, which still makes me mad that the fresh water is affected by the grid. Oh, redo. There we go. I think that's about it, though. I think that's a daily map done. So if you guys enjoy this map and you say, hey, I could use that in my Final Fantasy role-playing game, in your fantasy tabletop role-playing game, yeah, the link to it will be in the description down below. It'll be an Imager link, as always. Please do not use this for your own professional work, but you can absolutely use it for your own personal work. Until next time, I've been Jay, the Silent Cartographer, and tomorrow, I don't know what we'll do, but that's part of the fun. So I'm going to export this, and then I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.